Lots of AI note takers joining the room, unsurprisingly. Okay. Almost there. Just lots of faces showing up here. Nice to see everyone today. Happy Friday. Isn't it great to have a meeting on a Friday when you get to say that and try and set the tone so everyone's in a great mood right away. Okay, so I've got my recording on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Founder Friday. As a former founder myself and part of Foresight's, or the organizer of Foresight's advisory network, this initiative is kind of a merging of a lot of different kind of ideas. In some sense, it's an opportunity to create some free space where EIRs can come forward and say, hey, this is like really valuable and I want to tell people about it. Similarly, I'd like to give all the EIRs and advisors in the network an opportunity to talk about the businesses that they work on day to day, and behind them in a way that is, everyone understands. And the goal of this session is to provide some value, but also to provide that platform for EIRs to talk about their work and engage more deeply. And so what we're going to do today essentially is have a session from our EIR, James Rowe. James is one of our best EIRs, if I may insult everyone else in the room. It's essentially, had this great learnings that he really wanted to find a way to share, but we didn't have we don't have capacity to build a program for that or for ChatGPT in this context. And so I'm very pleased to pass the torch to him. James is going to take us through some of his work and an exercise. And then we'll do some discussion. At the end, we're going to jump into networking breakout rooms as well. So you guys have a chance to just chat and meet with each other for those who are available. So without further ado, and James, did you want me to poll everyone now, or did you want me to poll them at the end?
Oh, I've got a slide that's actually going to be a holder for that. So we'll just bring that up in a second.
All right. Well, with that, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you, Taylor. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Just 1 second, please. Okay. My slide's up now?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay. So thank you, Taylor, for the nice introduction. And I'm a little bit embarrassed by all the nice things being said.
Sorry about that. I'll just mute that. There you go.
Okay. All right. So how would your business change if you could get inside your customer's head? So I'm James Rowe. I'm a Foresight executive in residence and president of Insightful Innovation. In today's session, I'm going to give you an overview of my ChatGPT business use cases and the custom GPTs and playbooks I've created. I'm also going to share how I use ChatGPT to deeply understand my customers' needs and extract key sales intel for proposing solutions. I'm going to have a demo with some techniques that have transformed my approach to sales and pilot projects that you can apply right away. So right off the bat here, you can download the presentation by scanning the QR code here. So if you'd like to follow along, there are links in the presentation for some of the resources that are going to go over. So I'd recommend to scan this. I'll also share the link with Taylor so he can share that with the group as well. As we go in here, so the first thing I want to do is a quick poll of the audience to understand what your interests are. So Taylor has set up a Zoom poll. So Taylor is going to tailor our session with the Zoom poll.
I have launched the poll.
All right. So if you could just take a minute and fill in your interests, be really helpful. So my presentation is geared more towards sales discovery, but I will do my best to adjust and focus on some of the other aspects that are important to the audience. So just give another minute or two to submit the answers there. Taylor, can you see all the answers rolling in here?
I can, yes. Looks like we've got majority business owners.
My favorite thing to do.
Sales and marketing people.
That's all of the.
Okay, so we'll let that carry on, and I'll just jump into my next slide then. So we're going to focus on ChatGPT here today. So I have a paid ChatGPT Plus account that I'm going to be using for today's demo. If you haven't tried the paid version, the difference between the free version and the paid version is like the power difference between driving a Tesla and riding a bicycle. There's just no comparison between the free and paid version. So if you've tried free and you're kind of like, what's the big deal? I highly, highly recommend you spend the $20 US a month, because you get a powerful, versatile, all-in-one tool that you can use for a whole wide range of tasks. With that out of the way, there are really, when you start to use ChatGPT, there are two kind of main ways of using it. There's a delegation approach where you're giving ChatGPT well-defined tasks to do. And then there's a more collaborative approach where you are interacting and using it as an extension of your abilities to go and develop and achieve a certain outcome. So I like to think of ChatGPT as my really smart intern, where I can get them to do things, but they don't have a lot of context and understanding necessarily what I want them to do. So I've got to give them context and clear inputs on what they need to do, as well as my expectations about what the output is. But I'm not going to get too much into the art of prompting here, because there's other people that have talked about prompting before and stuff like that. I want to focus on practical, what I call AI workbooks. We're going to actually go through and do some practical and see some practical outcomes. But I just want to touch on prompting is still a really important aspect here, because if you don't have good prompts, you end up in not getting a lot of great results. So I use ChatGPT every day, like dozens of times a day. I use it mostly in the collaboration approach, where it's extending my abilities. So I use it for things like brainstorming. I use it for a lot of strategy as part of my day job. So I help business owners to explore scaling their business. So it's about connecting their business strategy with their technology strategy to get scale. So there's a lot of strategic tools I have. We get into planning. I do a lot of content creation because I post frequently on LinkedIn, and I have a newsletter, so I'll share some of that. The other big thing that's important when you're getting into ChatGPT is building standard operating procedures or recipes or playbooks, different ways of thinking about it. But it's basically, how do you break down the tasks that you're trying to achieve into small pieces that are well-defined, that you can chain together to get to the result you're looking for? And so explore that as part of the demo. Some pitfalls to be careful of. So I would say that this is maybe something that happens more with early career employees or early career people or inexperienced people, but you can over rely on the results of AI. So you can ask it to do something, and then there isn't a lot of critical thinking of what you're getting back, because you may not have the experience to know if the answer is right or not. So people talk about hallucinations, but you can also just get poor quality results if you don't have a critical eye. So that's a place to be cautious of. Unclear prompting can, and I'll give you an example. So, if I'm somebody working in marketing and I say, help me create a marketing report, create a marketing report for me. It's too vague. You don't have context. You don't know specifically what you're trying to do. What are your objectives? There's a bunch of inputs that are missing. And so you're going to get this boilerplate generic marketing plan. It won't tell you that it doesn't have the right information. It's just going to give you kind of a useless output. So you want to make sure that you're getting much more specific with your prompting. And then the other place is if you have workflows that you are using internally with your business, trying to adapt them one-to-one into ChatGPT may not work very well for you, because again, it's a different way of thinking. So there's some trial and error to kind of understand how to most effectively get results out of ChatGPT. And I'll show some of those kinds of scenarios as we go. So within my business, I've built over 50 custom GPTs that I use regularly for automating and streamlining tasks. Just for interest, I decided to make a chart here to kind of categorizes them by different business tasks. So you can see, as I mentioned, my business is primarily around strategy. So I've got a whole bunch of strategic tools. I also do a lot of content generation and marketing as part of my business on social media and my newsletters. And then there's a variety of other GPTs. Now you may ask, why don't you just use the AI-powered commercial tools that are out there? There's an explosion of all these tools that are out there. And to be honest, it's because I'm cheap. For 20 bucks, I get a tool that is general purpose instead of paying for all these other tools. And you can end up with dozens and dozens of different tools that you're trying to use, and your price tag just keeps going up and up. So learning how to use ChatGPT effectively can shrink down the need for all these tools that you would otherwise have to pay for. Then the other thing I do is I link together my different tools into workflows, as I call them, AI playbooks. So this might be something where I use a sales tactician GPT, which is what I'm going to demo. I will use it to assess a sales call, and then I will take that sales assessment and that intel, and I'll use it to go feed into a proposal generating GPT, which will then help me to build an outline and the content for the proposal that I'll be putting together. And then I'll drop that into a template, which I'll run through a tool like Gamma. Gamma is AI driven document creator, presentation creator. You can see I used it here today. So it's a fast way to go and create nice looking and creative presentations. So that's the kind of workflow I'm talking about. I regularly publish these workbooks as part of my Insightful Growth Navigator newsletter. So if you're interested, there's a QR code. This is a free subscription. I don't sell anything here. It's just where I share my AI playbooks. So if you're interested, feel free to sign up. So on the next part of the call here, we're going to do the demo. So we're going to go through three main parts of the demo. First thing is I'm going to describe a sales scenario where I've got a new sales lead, and I want to get help on how to guide my discovery call. I need some help building the script for how to actually go walk through the call with my potential clients. We're going to once we have that script, we're then going to pretend that we have a call. I'll explain a little bit about my AI note taker and how I get a transcript from that. And then I've got a simulated transcript that I'll use and we'll analyze that to extract sales insights, action items, customer sentiment, and tone. And then from that, once we've done the sales analysis, then what we're going to do is use it to generate a sales demo script for the follow-up call. And then we'll dive into that. So I have a custom GPT called the Sales Tactician GPT. So this provides, it helps to interview me, to ask the right information it needs to be able to guide me through a sales opportunity. And so we'll see how that works here in just a second. If you downloaded the presentation, you have a link and you can freely use my GPT for your own purposes. And it is private. You do not share any information with me. So all the conversations are private for your own use.
We'll have to share that link again after.
Will do, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to switch over here and talk about our sales situation. So let's start here. So we're going to role play now. I am the CEO of SupplySense AI. So I have a company that builds AI-driven supply chain solutions. So it's a software solution that helps with optimizing your supply chain. So I've done my customer discovery previously and some market research, and I've gone and I've developed my product with the value proposition and key features and strategic advantages, and I have my initial product offering. So I'm going to use this product description as part of my demo here. I also have a new sales lead that's come in from a company called Acme Logistics. So they are in the supply chain and logistics industry. I've got two attendees for a 30-minute meeting. I've got Sally Nguyen, who's the operations director, and Joe Smith, who's the logistics manager. So I have some goals that I want to accomplish as part of this call. So I want to introduce my AI-driven software solution. I want to get a good understanding of what Acme Logistics challenges are. So are they currently using logistics software? Is it working well for them? Is it not working well? And then I want to qualify the opportunity to decide, is it going to actually be a good opportunity to pursue? So we are going to fill this into the sales tactician here now. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to get started. So it asked me for some contextual information. So what's the current sales opportunity and what help do I need? So I'm going to say I'm going to attach the sales situation. So I've downloaded that document I showed. I'm going to attach it here. So with that sales situation, I have an upcoming sales discovery call and I need help developing a script for the call. So let's submit that. So it summarizes the information I provided. So it's just similar to what I had in the document before. Oops, sorry. So it's a call with Acme. We've got our attendees and our sales goals. And it gives me a script. So I'm going to have a short introduction. We're going to then explore their current situation, explore specific needs, present the solution, and next steps. So this is very generic. It doesn't really get into my specific situation. So let's add a bit more context. So we're going to attach the product description and ask it to update. Just drag that in. Okay, so we're asking it to revise the script with the product information. All right, so we're getting a little more specific here. Oops. So we're going to start off in the introduction with the pitch and positioning. What does SupplySense AI do? So it gives an overview there. We're then going to use that as a jumping off point to then understand the situation from, what does Acme actually need? So ask them about their current logistics software. What are the challenges and pain points? And how is it impacting their team's efficiency and business operations? And then from there, we'll dig in and ask any follow-up questions on specific needs. Using that information, then that's going to frame, again, going back into our solution and then talking about the SupplySense AI from their problem space. Okay, so we're doing solution-based selling here, and it's helping guide us through how to listen to the problems and then adapt our solution to address the problems as part of that conversation. Okay, so we've got our script now. So this is going to guide that. So we're now going to fast forward. I'll briefly talk about the AI note taker I use. I had a great call with Taylor last week about doing this Founders Friday. So this is a tool I use called Fathom. You may have seen Otter's AI or Firefly's AI. There's a whole bunch of these different AI note taker tools. I really like Fathom. And one of the things it does, it has a full transcript of the meeting. So
You
I can
tell
try.
me I was on camera.
Yeah. So anyway, I can copy the transcript here and then feed that back into ChatGPT. Now, some people might say, well, wait a minute, you're going to take a transcript of your call and feed it into ChatGPT. What about privacy? Well, the thing with privacy is if you've got a transcript, it's already run through the AI tools. You're already getting into the fact that this information is out there and has probably gone through the OpenAI tools. Now, you have to check end user agreements and privacy rules to understand exactly what's going on here. But my perspective is if you're person that you're meeting with is willing to be on the transcript, then I think it's fair game to use that within the tools. So that's how I capture the transcript. We're going to jump ahead again now, and I've put together a simulated transcript for the sales situation so that we can analyze this one specifically. So I'm going to now, we're going to start a new instance of the chat here, new conversation.
Sorry to interrupt your flow, James, but I really want
Yeah.
to emphasize that point. What you're saying is really you give up your right to privacy the moment you accept the note taker into the room.
Well, that's my perspective on this. I don't know what the legal agreement would be, but
Well,
AI note takers.
no, especially if you're doing like a customer call or another call that's being recorded, and you say something that I don't know, just know that everything you say is in posterity. Anyway, I just think that's really fascinating. So thanks for letting me interrupt you.
Yeah, it is an important consideration. And so I view that if your person you're speaking to has agreed to be in the AI note taker, the AI note takers go through AI. So they've already been processed. It's already in the cloud. So, that's a consideration. We have a question. So
I'll
Akshay,
allow it.
yeah.
Sorry, not a question, but generally a comment. So yes, just to emphasize that. So I know of some organizations that have very clear instructions. Please do not use note takers. And those are the organizations that are undergoing either some kind of litigation or some kind of regulatory search because they're just scared of, something getting used out of context and it getting recorded. So those cases, I guess, do exist. So no, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
No, thank
Yeah,
great.
it's an important consideration. And so I believe legally you have to disclose if you're recording a call or a meeting. So I think almost all of the AI note takers do announce that, but I like to double check with clients when I speak to them that they're okay with being in, like, me using the note taker. So that is it's important to double check. And so then if they say yes, then this would be considered fair game in my opinion. But this is a place where this is emerging aspects that are coming out. So this is controversial. So I want to be careful we don't derail the demo because we're going to get into the interesting
So in
things.
that case, sorry, everyone, I'm getting other questions being messaged here too. So
Yeah.
why don't we just hold them to the end if that's okay? But I do think it's definitely something we want to have a broader discussion about.
Yes, so let's keep it to the Q&A. We can have a whole discussion about privacy and data because it's an important conversation. So let's assume that we are okay to proceed with using this transcript. So I'm going to bring the transcript into the conversation here. And so I have it in a file and uploading.
Can we see what that looks like too?
Oh, sure. The transcript looks like this. Okay, so it's just it's a recording of the conversation. Okay, so it has gone through and the sales tactician has given me an overview here. So it's captured the key challenges, impact of challenges, and other aspects here. So what I would like to do now is we've got kind of the big picture here in terms of the key points of the call, as well as some recommendations. But let's dig deeper into it. So I'm going to now ask some questions of this. So before I submit this, so one of the things that I like to do is add this prefix onto my command server. So using only the information in this call transcript, we're going to extract the sales insights. The reason I do this is it helps to reduce hallucinations. So sometimes, like especially if you have a very long call transcript, you may not know, like you may not spot something that pops out that's just made up. So this says focus in on just what I've given you and only use that to extract insights. We're going to use that same approach a couple of times here as we go through and analyze this. So the insights here, we've got the current challenge is Acme's, their big challenges around inventory tracking and management issues from their software, and they have frequent delays that are increasing their storage costs. So it's increased their cost by over 15%, and delays are causing customer complaints. So they've got real issues here. When we get into the solution requirements, they need to make sure that they've got real-time tracking in order to avoid those delays, and they need seamless integration. So now we're starting to see some of the constraints on what we will need to do to make sure that we can fit into their operations. So there's a sales opportunity here with, so there's a match for our capabilities and there's alignment with some of the value propositions of our solution. But there's also some customer objections. So both Sally and Joe are concerned about any disruptions to operations and also the learning curve of the new system. So there's a training and change management aspect that's important. And then they're also, this isn't something they've budgeted for right now to make this change. So they need to understand what the pricing model looks like and explore that. So they want a demo session as a next step and then discuss pricing. So let's dig a little bit more into how each of the participants are feeling. So what's their sentiment and tone? So we can get that from the conversation. We get a summary here. We won't worry about my tone, but Joe. So Joe is the logistics manager. So he's got a neutral, slightly positive tone. So he's open to new solutions, but he's concerned. So he's their current software is just not working very well. He's not, super optimistic that replacing it's going to actually fix it, but he's open to exploring that. And particularly the demo is going to be an important aspect of that. Whereas Sally, she's optimistic, but she's really sensitive about interruptions to operations, as she should be. She's the operations director. Well, let's find out let's dig a little more into what Sally's most concerned about.
Is this tone analysis based on their voice or on their words?
It's on the words, because we're
Okay.
just using the transcript. We're not using the video.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so Sally's concerned about disruptions, as we talked about. So she's really going to need to be reassured that the implementation plan is going to be really smooth and that we know how to go and do this without interrupting their operations. Okay, so let's see. Also, from a sales perspective, are there any red flags that might block this sale? Is there anything that we should be watching out for based on the transcript? Okay, so there's a few things that came up. So again, disruptions. So if we can't convince Sally that we can do this without any downtime, then she's not going to go along with it. Training is a critical factor, and budget. And then there's also some skepticism about, is this going to actually have a return on investment? There's some CapEx that's going to be required to go in and change over the system. So what does that look like? So we're going to need to do some homework on building the business case. Okay, so next question is, what are we missing to qualify the sales opportunity? So what else do we need to find out? Okay, decision-making authority. So Joe and Sally, are they ultimately the budgetary decision makers? Can they move this forward? Or are they gatekeepers to someone else in the organization? Budget, we don't really know the budget, so we're gonna have to dig deeper and find that. We don't know what the current software is, so we're gonna have to find out who they are so that we can build a case against that direct competitor. Timeline, solution alternatives, what else are they looking at? And then KPIs, how are they going to measure success? Okay, good. So we know what we need to go and develop as part of the next step of qualification. So we've done the analysis now. We now have a good sense of like what it is we know, what we still need to find out. So let's start planning the next part of the meeting. So we know that they want to have a follow-up demo. So let's explore what that might look like. So the next meeting is a demo of our software. What qualification information is most important to collect as part of this meeting? We're not going to be able to gather it all in one meeting, so what's most important? Okay, so most important, who are the key decision makers? We want to identify those. What are the most important critical pain points? What's their budget? What's the timeline when they want to implement it? And what are the technical capabilities? What integration constraints do we have? Since this is a software solution, we need somebody from IT in the meeting. Right now, we're only talking to operations and logistics. So there's a missing stakeholder that's going to be important, technical buyer. Okay, good. So now, next step is let's actually start planning for our next meeting. So let's create an outline for the presentation. Let's assume it's a 60-minute meeting that's going to include the demo plus conversation time, and base it on the conversation that we've had so far in the chat here. Okay, so we're going to have a quick introduction. We'll go back and revisit the pain points and objectives based on the call we had previously. And then we're going to get into a demo that touches on the key pain points that they've identified as part of our earlier call, which is about real-time tracking, being able to predict inventory, integration, and training and support. And then we'll talk about how we can have a seamless implementation with phased rollout, no downtime, and easy change management, and then discuss pricing. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do here is I want a list of sales qualification questions for this meeting. Let's generate those. So we've got a bunch of questions that we can selectively choose from to put through our meeting to try and get the key information we need to qualify that this opportunity is ready to proceed to the next stage. So there's a bunch of different things you can do once you have a call transcript, and you can start to frame the conversation and collaborate with ChatGPT from an expert sales perspective to really dig into the sales opportunity and get guidance. So I hope that was helpful to kind of understand some of the power of what's possible.
That was extremely helpful, James. I know for me personally, just the idea of being able to like ask this, can you ask, for example, could you ask it, what's the percentage chance that this customer will close? Could you ask it that?
Let's try.
Because like if a management could do this based on calls transcripts and no human element, like as a sales manager before, it's really hard getting people to forecast accurately, right? Like everyone's like, oh, they could go, they couldn't go. So
Yeah.
like fascinating.
Most likely, given the limited information we have here, I think that like you're probably going to get garbage in, garbage out here.
That's okay because it knows its own limits, but more than I do, which is good. In that case,
Yeah.
do you want to open it up for questions and Q&A then?
I want to just go back and wrap up. I've got two more slides that I want to get through, and then we'll open it up to question and answer. Okay. Okay, so in terms of additional resources, there's three things that I'd like to point out here. So the first one, this link is for finding custom GPTs. So if you've used the ChatGPT store, you know that the search capabilities are really not very good. So this is actually a custom GPT that helps you find and discover other custom GPTs. So it's a really helpful tool for that. This is also, there's a website that covers all the latest Gen AI tools that are coming out. So these are commercial tools. So it does a review of the new tools that are coming out, and it's talking about all the latest cutting edge tools. Now, there's such an explosion of tools, it's almost impossible to keep up with things. So there's various newsletters and things that that have the latest news and stuff. But this is a nice website just to explore what's possible in some of these cases. And then the last resource that I think is probably the most interesting to this audience is there are 3 reports that I've seen from startup organizations. So Hamptons is a network for startups. They've put out a new report that talks about their membership and how they're adopting generative AI in their businesses. HubSpot has a new report around how generative AI is being used in sales and marketing and go-to-market for by startups. And Startup Bond is a European-focused organization that's talking about it over in Germany. But those are links to those resources. I also want to talk briefly about a new initiative that I'm involved with. So Circles of AI is a vibrant community that's designed to bring together forward-thinking professionals. So our mission is to democratize AI knowledge and make it accessible and actionable for everyone, from startups to large enterprises. And as part of our membership, members get to learn practical guidance, share strategies, explore hands-on examples, and lead with knowledge. So we do playbooks similar to what I presented today, where we dig into specific examples and explore what's possible. So if you're interested and would like to learn more, you can scan the QR code there and visit our website to join us. And finally, it's time for Q&A. So this is an opportunity to ask me anything. I will do my best to answer. And if I don't have answers, I will promise to follow up and try to come back with
And just quickly before we
Another-
jump in, what other, this today was a demo of, that sales tactician. What other tools are you using frequently?
Yeah, so I have tools that I've built for doing competitive analysis, doing market research. I mentioned that I regularly post on social media, so I have a LinkedIn post generator. I have tools that help me with generating my newsletter. I have a GPT that helps me to craft prompts for Midjourney and other image generation tools.
Very
I
cool.
have a business model process analyzer as I help people with their business transformation.
Fascinating. Okay, well, with that, Peter Love has raised his hand first. So Peter, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. Really interesting, James. Thank you very much. Just a few comments and 2 questions. I did like your comment that it's like a smart intern. I think that's really, really useful, and I like that context. I didn't find the example of the sales call particularly insightful. It struck me that would anybody who's done 4 or 5 sales calls, they pick, I mean, I just not, that might be useful for somebody really junior, but I can't imagine it for someone that's more experienced. It was pretty straightforward. And one of the real concerns I'd have about that is that if people start to read the script, it looks really not spontaneous. And it could, in the wrong hands, it could come across being, a bit of a canned sort of presentation. So I'm just concerned about that. But anyway, but I can see other examples. I'm just not sure I'm not sure that that sales call would be the best application. But anyway, my concern would be, I hadn't, the thing that was interesting, which to me was scary, is the tone analysis. That's a huge, that is something that takes experience. I'm not sure how much I would trust this tool over my own sense, but I'd be really concerned, is that public information? Could that client possibly see what my AI tool has said about them? Because that could ruin the sale. I gotta think, and once this stuff is out there, could those people go on and see that they were considered difficult or whatever?
Well, a couple comments. First one was the reason that I chose a sales approach here is so as part of Foresight, I moderate the launch program and the pilot program. So with with the companies at this stage, there's a lot of questions around how to do customer discovery and sales discovery calls.
Okay.
So for that audience, this is very relevant.
Okay.
So that was why it was focused there. Now, to your question about can the assessment of people's their tone and sentiment, is that public knowledge? I mean, this is a private conversation that you're having with your chat GPT.
Mhm.
Now, the concern where people are concerned about putting that information into the tool, it's more that can be incorporated into results that are part of the AI brain. So, you might have seen things where people say, they search for something and then a New York Times article almost comes back verbatim. That's the kind of thing where people would be concerned. I actually don't know the answer. If, Sally and Gwen put in, say, what do people think about me? Is it going to come back and give an assessment? I don't think so, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. All right. Yep.
So theoretically, though, the training data, like Sally Nguyen, could be put in, what do you know about Sally Nguyen from Victoria, BC? And it might have some of that data, like in theory. Okay, cool. I'm actually asking you, James.
Yeah, I don't know.
If I may, James, I do know the answer to that, or I know conceptually the answer to that. It's Helen Plattis. I do a lot of work in AI governance. And the reality is, if you ask the right question, it is part of the training data, and it will identify that they found her difficult to work with.
Fascinating.
Just like if you have it summarize your corporate strategy and somebody asks, what's Foresight's strategy for growth? Because it's part of the data that it's using, it will tell you what Foresight's strategy for growth is. So that's the caution.
Yeah. Now, what you can do there, I didn't do it for this demo because this was simulated data. There are tools that are not AI tools that will de-identify your data. So you can run this through, like, there's Python scripts and things that will do that de-identification and take out any personally identifiable information.
And also, not all the GPT tools are the same. There are some that will not use your knowledge as part of their training, if you identify that, which I think what you're getting at.
I am getting at that, yes. But I would assume that if you put information into ChatGPT, it will go into their training, because it's not that easy to find out whether it will or won't. So what I'm saying is there are tools that you can run your transcript through before, where it will say person 1, person 2, person 3. It doesn't have their names in it. It will take out the name of the company. And these are, this is not stuff that I've used and experienced with, but there are tools that are Python or other software scripts that you can run and pre-process your data before you put it into the AI tools.
Just see a question from Scott here.
Hey, thanks, James, for the presentation. Really great. Super interesting. I subscribed to Chat GPT. When I saw this come up, I was pretty excited to hear about what you're using it for. Little bit on the discussion that you were just having is I won't put my data in there because, like you said, I don't know if it's part of the training or not. I don't know if you guys know of anything like where I could do, because I do want to use AI to analyze a lot of the work that I do, but I also don't want it to be a part of, like, I don't want to, it's private data, right? So I just don't want it out there. So for me, sending it through Python scripts, sending it through different programs, it's just as easy for me to do the analysis myself right now. Now that's going to change, obviously, when we get more data and all this sort of stuff. So what are some of your, here's the question part. Are there other programs out there, or is there, is there a way to, besides, is there something out there that we can use our private data on and get similar results or similar analysis or anything like that, if you know of anything? That's because I'm very hesitant to put my data into Chat GPT. They also have a big warning when you sign up for it, just for everyone who hasn't signed up yet. If you put data in it will be used, just so you know.
Yeah. So there's a nuanced answer here. So OpenAI has different tiers in terms of what amount of privacy they allow. So in the free version, everything gets sucked into their training data. In the ChatGPT Plus, you can opt out for specific with your GPTs, as Helen mentioned. There's also a Teams version and enterprise version. So each of these levels has more and more privacy rights. You can also, if you don't want to use ChatGPT, you can use, there's all these other chatbots. There's Claude, there's the Google Gemini. Everybody seems to be coming out with their own chatbots. Now, they all have similar issues, but what I was going to say is around ecosystems. So Microsoft, with their copilots, has incorporated that where now it's within the overall enterprise data management. You're still getting data, like they're still looking at your data, but in terms of privacy, I mean, Zoom right now is listening to us in these calls. So whether it's going into an AI or not, they have all this data. They know exactly what we're talking about. So there isn't, to some extent, privacy is only as good as the company that you trust. Whatever you put out there electronically is going to get sucked into something. Your data is out there. So for me, it really comes down to risk reward. How much risk is there associated with putting that information out there versus the reward that you'll get from using it? And that's a personal decision that really comes down to, and when most of the companies I'm working with are fairly early stage within Foresight. So there's a high reward compared to the risk in a lot of cases. Now, as you get more mature and you're more concerned, and specific if you're getting into IP or any kind of customer sensitive data, you got to be really careful about what you're putting out there. So that's, I think that's probably why Peter's jumping in here. But
yeah, it's just I'm not an IT expert at all, but one of my sons works at Microsoft and is very handy. So he's taken me through ChatGPT, and he's got an extended version of it, of course, as a Microsoft employee. One of the things I hear though is that that people are concerned about privacy. A lot of them will use a WhatsApp. It apparently has better privacy tools, that it's harder to hack. I don't know, people who want to be confidential. First of all, is that true? But more specifically, would someone like WhatsApp, would they eventually have a ChatGPT AI tool, do you think? Or do they have one now?
Yeah.
And if so, would it be more secure?
Yeah, so WhatsApp is, I don't know whether it would be more secure or not, but they are, I think WhatsApp is actually owned by Microsoft, but they've just integrated with Meta. So with Meta AI, which is it's a tool called Llama 3 is their model. So that is an open source generative AI tool, LLM, meaning that the model itself is available to anybody to use. They can go and build it and put it in their own cloud. So to go back to Scott's point about, can I have my own trained system? You can actually go and download Llama 3. You can go create a cloud instance and go run your own LLM in the cloud. But it's really expensive because you're now paying for, all those NVIDIA cards that need to run things. You're going to have to pay for those resources. So, and plus, most people don't have the capability to set this up. So if you have the technical ability, you can create your own personal AI chatbot. But if you don't, then this isn't a good option, but you have to be aware of some of the pitfalls around privacy and making sure that the way I would think about it is like, would you share the information that you're considering putting into the AI with people outside of your company? If you're not, you probably shouldn't do it.
Fascinating. Any other questions that anyone wants to jump in and ask? I think everyone's a little bit scared. I feel like I got a little bit of that fear, realizing that all these companies are, integrating and doing things like that. And I mean, I actually kind of raised the question, why doesn't Microsoft own what I write into Microsoft Word? I guess it's not online. I don't know. I'm just going out of nowhere. Okay, well, with that, I mean, we can jump into breakout rooms.
I think Scott had one more question.
Oh,
Yeah,
did you?
I have a lot of questions actually.
Okay,
Maybe
sure.
take it offline or something. But
Well, people
the
are dropping
last
off,
question,
so
yeah,
please
yeah.
continue.
The last question is when you're setting up your GPT instances, I think you call them playbooks or whatever. Um, are those private, I guess, or do you know?
I can actually show you how to create a GPT.
Yeah,
Would people be interested in seeing how that actually works? I can show you
yeah.
what that looks like. Okay, so let's go behind the scenes here. Okay, so when you go in and configure a new GPT, so the instructions here, this is the prompt. This is the information you're going to put into the GPT. So you fill that in, and then you can, the name and description and stuff are self-explanatory. You can also upload files. So this is your knowledge retrieval. So you may have heard of the term RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. What that means is basically the chat tool has access to some files that it can search for information. This in a custom GPT, this is kind of a simplified version of that. So you can upload your files and put them in there. And you can use that where it can search that knowledge repository. And then you can also add additional capabilities. So by default, allows you to do web browsing. So ChatGPT uses Bing for web search. You can include image generation, which is integrated in. So if I, in the other conversation, if I wanted to say, let's create a persona for one of the people in the call, I could create an image of what they might look like if I wanted to. And then there's a code interpreter. So code interpreter, you can write Python code here, but what it's actually more useful for is, let's say that you wanted to upload a spreadsheet and count the number of cells or something. You can use it to go and analyze documents and do data analysis. So you don't actually have to write code. What it will do is it will generate its own code and allow you to use that to do things. And then you can also add new actions. So these are APIs. These are calls to other web services you can integrate in. Now,
started out using a.
Sorry, I'm hearing somebody's needs to mute. It used to be that there was another option at the bottom that allowed you to opt out the GPT from using any of the data in the training set. They have disabled that, I believe. It's certainly not visible here, but there are some settings that you can put into the personal settings under your settings here. So there's some data controls. So I believe this is the one that Helen might have been talking about, improving the model for everyone. Turn it off. That means that data is not being fed into their training set. Now, what exactly that means, it's an on-off switch. So, you have to dig into the privacy policies and understanding of exactly what they're doing with that. But it is possible to turn that off. So does that help answer your question, Scott?
Yeah, it does. Like it's interesting on how you set up the GPTs and stuff like that. Mine's quite specific for the industry I'm in, and so I'd like to use this because I agree with you. For $20 a month, it's pretty cheap, and then I don't have to use really expensive tools that are coming out for my industry. So I just, like you said, I got to read the privacy stuff and but I haven't done it yet, so I'm not that concerned about it. It's just I see the benefit of it. I'm a little bit hesitant putting my own personal data or my client's data in there, right? Because it's not my data. So
yeah, fair enough.
Colin's got a question here. Colin?
Yeah, thanks. Hey, James, thanks a lot. That was great. Just to take it one step further on your sales presentation, could you ask Gamma as a next step, could you sub-index, for instance, the main points that you were going to do and ask Gamma to put a presentation together ultimately with bullet points for each of those, etc.?
Yes, you can. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the Insightful Growth newsletter that I mentioned, so there's a article I published a few weeks ago that actually explains how to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And James, you've done all this great work building these tools. Is ChatGPT able to do an update and destroy their functionality?
Oh, you mean like when they upgrade their model, will it break the tools?
Yeah.
The nice thing about the custom GPTs is that the high level prompt should be generic enough that when the underlying model changes, it shouldn't break it. So it's a little bit different. This is a subtle point.
Sorry, 1 second. Someone's being kidnapped. No, making funny small talk. Please go ahead.
Okay. It's a subtle point. So I'll talk about like the AI powered commercial tools that are out there. So actually Gamma is a good example. So what Gamma does is it takes a document, you can upload a document, and it will generate a presentation for you from that document. They use OpenAI's API to go and send that information over, and they've got a specific prompt that's been optimized to give reliable, repeatable results. So it can assess, it can figure out what it needs to do, but the results that come back are generally good quality results. But it's very sensitive to changes in the way that the model goes because they need that repeatability. A lot of the GPTs I make are less about the repeatability and the reliability of the same answer, and more about helping to structure the thinking and the process. So it's less likely to be affected by underlying model changes.
I really liked Peter's comment about training someone junior with a sales GPT to make sure that they're asking these questions and doing the qualification and not driving leads that aren't, ultimately valuable to up into meetings. It's fascinating. Any other questions coming in?
Yeah, I have a question. James, one of the use cases I'm looking at here is how do we use this to respond to RFPs, to proposals? A lot of our business is focused on that, and taking privacy into account, maybe changing the names of companies, etc. Could I theoretically build a GPT where I upload 10 of my last proposals as the data bank, and then upload the latest RFP that I received and say, make me a first draft response to this?
Exactly what you can do. Yeah.
Which means there's probably a lot of responses that are being generated by ChatGPT being submitted.
Yeah. Well, so what's useful here is you can create a highly customized proposal with this. So that sales intel that we collected as part of the demo, you can now feed that in and say, here is my templated proposal. Connect the value propositions to the specific problems that they've identified and their key, like the things that are most important to them and their KPIs that they're measuring, and go and revise the proposal to be tied specifically to that. And you can do this very quickly. So it's a really powerful way to get highly customized sales collateral once you've got that insight from these calls.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very cool. Well, James, thank you so much for having this concept and saying, I want to show people how to use these tools and demystify it, because I feel like, everyone's still in the room even after all this discussion and stuff. So I think it was a highly popular topic and really relevant. With that, I can go ahead and jump us into breakout rooms. And they're just going to be, if you don't want to be part of the networking and part of the breakout rooms, or you want to follow up with James or ask a question, now's the time to ask the question in the chat. Stay in this room, but if you don't want to partake in the networking, please go. As I'm going to put you into these rooms now. So I'll give
Okay.
you a few more minutes just to say your thank yous to James or jump.
Well, Taylor, thank you for the opportunity to do this. I hope that I was able to share some useful information today.
I think you absolutely were, and thank you for leading with value. And that's the model I want to try and push forward with everyone else as well, with these sessions, but still giving that kind of freedom to share what they like. Okay. Looks like we're just got a few note takers. There was actually, I don't know if you saw, James, but there was some sort of AI face chatbot where they had a face and the mouth was moving and they were talking at one point there. And I was like, oh my God, we're all the way there. It's jumped ahead. It looks like it's going to be a relatively small group here. So why don't we just go ahead and unmute and jump into the main room and if you're interested in chatting with others. James, what is the most absurd hallucination that an AI tool has given you?
That's a hard question to answer. I find I don't actually get that many crazy hallucinations. I've done a lot of optimizing of my system prompt, so it keeps it down. I have had it make up. No, you know what? I did some competitive analysis and it made up companies.
So how does it
and
work
even
that way?
links to them.
Is it grabbing information from the web then? So
It's
if I
supposed
say
to
I
be.
want market research on all the coffee shops in Victoria, will it give me a list of coffee shops in
Yeah.
Victoria? No?
If it depends on how you do it. So the way that I found, if you just say, tell me all the coffee shops in Victoria, you'll get whatever random results. It will make stuff up. But if you say, use Bing to search for the top 5 coffee shops in Victoria, then it narrows it down and it uses a specific search tool to go verify.
Fascinating. I'm just going to stop the recording.